In today's video, the ultimate mixture of sparkle will meet acrylic pouring paints and watercolors. In this second video of the Going with the Flow series, you're going to be introduced to the art of combining multiple techniques and ending up with some dazzling artwork. Stay tuned, that's coming up next. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to another video. If this is your first time here, thank you so very much for joining me. And if you're a return viewer, hello again. So today I'm going to do something really fun, and I think you're going to like it. I think you're going to like it a lot. Now, this is video number 2 in my new series called Going with the Flow. And what this series is about, it's about taking some acrylic pouring techniques along with some other techniques, combining them together and just going with the flow, having a good time, de-stressing, relaxing, feeling the paints, moving the paints, just really getting into creating a piece of art. All too often, as a new pour artist or as an artist in general, we stress over composition. Does it look right? Is this color the color I really wanted? No. Today we are just going to let that all loose, and whatever comes to our mind, we are going to do. And I say we because I'm hoping that you do this too. And I'm also hoping by combining techniques that I can inspire you to kind of think outside of the box, okay? So first I want to tell you, I have a beautiful 18 by 24 Premier Artist Panel cradle wood board. It's got 7/8 inch sides. I don't know if you can see those there. And it's already primed, so you don't have to worry about priming it. I always tell you, when you work on wood, you have to prime it because wood breathes, it off gases. And if you just pour paint or resin on top of raw wood, you're going to get a lot of bubbles that just keep popping up in your artwork because it's off gassing. So you have to prime it. But with these, they already do it for you. So it has a nice smooth white surface and the nice sides as well. Now for the acrylic pouring portion of this video, I'm going to make it really simple for you. We are going to thin paint with water. That is it. If you want to use your pre-mixed pouring paints, however, you can. Me, I don't pre-mix a bulk amount of each color. So I just mix fresh every video that I do. So I don't have anything to use. So that's why I'm going to use these beautiful U-Trick acrylic paints, and I'm going to thin them down with some water. And now these are heavy body. Let me give you a little tip about mixing, or I should say thinning down heavy body paints. You never want to put a large amount of liquid into this paint all at once because they will clump. So what you want to do is just put your paint in the cup and slowly, I mean very slowly, thin it down with water, and I will show you how to do that. Let's go over the colors. So I have a turquoise, chromium oxide green, cadmium green, viridian hue. I also have a Liquitex soft body muted green, and then I have over here a cobalt green by Golden. Then I have a watercolor I'm going to be using, believe it or not. This is phthalo turquoise, and this is actually concentrate. So what you do, and I will show you this also, is just thin it down with a little bit of water, and it works as a watercolor, okay? Then for the first time ever, I'm going to be trying this Mousseau black. Now what this is, and I would love to thank beautiful Amy for sending this to me. What this is one of those blackest black paints. All right, you've seen me use a brand called Culture Hustle on this channel before. They market the world's blackest black paint. Well, this is just another company that does it. So we're going to try some of this also. And then along the way, after the pour dries and I move on to the next step, I will show you the rest of the products that I'm using. All right, so I have my scale on, I have my cup on. I'm using ounces for my measurements. Now again, I want to reiterate, do not put a lot of water into the color right away. It will clump. So here's the cobalt green, all right? I'm going to just use the scale so that you can know the exact measurements that I used for this. But because these are heavy body, you don't want to add a lot of paint in there. So we're going to stop right there with 0.2 ounces. So almost a quarter ounce of paint, but not quite. To that, I'm literally going to be adding like a quarter teaspoon of water at a time because it will clump. So it's not even registering on the scale. It's so little. All right. I don't know if you can see that in there. Like it's literally just a little tiny bit of water. Let's put it this way. You want to do small amounts of water until it starts to get like a medium body paint. Then you can start adding a little bit more at a time, okay? Now, I know that was 0.5 the cup. So we put in 0.15 ounces of water. So we had 0.20 of paint, 0.15 ounces of water. That would bring us up to 0.35. We're at 0.40 right now because, again, the cup itself weighs 0.5, so we subtract that. So we're at 0.35. All right? So not a lot of water. It's almost a 1 part paint, 1 part water measurement. But anyway, that's the consistency. It just flows off the stick and leaves a little mound. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see with this color. Probably not. All right, so let's get started making this piece called malachite. So first I'm going to take some water and spritz the entire surface of my board. Next, I'm going to take my watercolor and I'm going to just put some of it on the surface. Now, this is traditionally not how you use this type of a product, but for me, I'm using it this way. So I'm taking a sponge and just spreading it around over the entire surface. Once I get the entire surface covered, I'm going to come in with some green black by Atelier and go over it again. I'll be careful not to cover all of that pretty turquoise color. I want to have a nice blending effect with some deeper shades and some lighter shades. Using a sponge is one of the most easiest ways to get a nice blended look. Watching this now, I notice I always lay my boobs in my paintings. They're always in the way, that's for sure. So once this step was done, I let it dry and then I started making 2 straight pour cups. We're going to do a traveling ring pour. So you just want to layer the colors on top of each other and fill the cups all the way to the top. I took all of the greens that I had thinned down, some custom, some just straight out of the tube. I'm showing you the names there. And yeah, I layered them in the cup. By the way, on the consistency chart, if you are a consistency chart user, these paints are a number 3. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the video in the description. It's a great video that teaches you how to thin down paints and what the actual consistency is that I'm using. So here we go, our traveling straight pour / ring pour. I just took the cups and poured out the paint along the center of the canvas. Again, these paints were only thinned with water, nothing else. Now, if you're a new pour artist, you may think, well, why would I use anything else to thin down my paints? Here is why. First of all, pouring paint using just water to thin down the acrylic paint is actually more expensive if you ask me. You have to use a lot more paint to create volume, whereas when using Floetrol or another substitute, you get more paint, you get more volume out of your color. So although it may seem like it's a cheaper way to go, in the end, I feel you're using a lot more paint, and depending on the brand, it can be very costly. So my vision for today's painting is a slab of malachite. Now, I wanted some movement in the paint. I wanted some lines to form. So that's why I chose this technique. And in the end, you'll see it worked out great. So I'm looking just for those sections to look kind of divided almost. And if you look at a slice of agate or a stone, that has a lot of veining and lines through it, that's the kind of look I was going for. And I am really, really happy with the outcome of this, especially on that background. So now I'm just tilting my paints, and isn't it funny how that pearlized green looks like gold now? That's because it mixed with that lighter green, and you're seeing a lot of the gold in the color come out. So I'm just tilting back and forth nice and slow. I'm paying attention to my lines. I'm paying very close attention to where everything is moving. And once I'm done tilting, I will then let it dry and come back for the next step. So here's a close-up of the pretty colors. And again, we're going to just let it dry. This area right here along the edge is drop dead gorgeous. The green that I made, the custom light green mixed with the pearlized green, made the most beautiful oyster effect.
"2,000 years later."
Actually, only 48 hours later. Everything is dry. When you use paint and water, it dries really, really fast. So now, my friends, it's time to have some fun. This is where we bring in a technique called mixed media. Mixed media could be anything you want as long as you're combining multiple techniques. So I have the acrylic pouring technique. I'm going to use some black paint to black out some areas. To add some areas, I'm going to use some crystal mixtures that I make. I'm going to use some glitter, just all types of things we're going to add into this and make it a unique piece of art. So I start off with this Musso Blackest Black paint, and it is black. However, the beauty of this paint is that it dries matte, and that's why it looks so black. But if you put any type of varnish or resin on top of it, it makes it obviously shiny and not matte. So if you want that really deep black matte look, don't put anything on top of it. And actually, at the end, I'm going to show you something that I wish I had done and may possibly still do. So I took those areas that were black and I went over them with some blue black just to blend them in to the upper portion there, okay? So I went over them with the blue black indigo by Atelier, and then once I was done with that, I got out the metal leaf adhesive and started painting down some of this glue in certain areas of the board because I wanted to use metal leaf. Now, the metal leaf that I put down is not going to stay looking like this. I wanted it for the underneath of my crystals so they would have a golden hue to them. And this stuff is very easy to use. It's just like a glue. You paint it on where you want it. You let it dry. But when I say dry, I mean it's going to dry clear but still be tacky. Once it is clear, it is dried, it takes about an hour or two. You're going to just take your gold leaf and lay it right on top. Now, you don't have to worry about having the gold leaf fit right where you painted it. It's okay if it overlaps. Just lay some gold leaf down on top of it, press it down really good, and then you're going to get out a good strong bristle brush and brush away the excess. And what it does is it leaves you with that shape that you made with the glue with your paintbrush. Again, these are just going to be kind of like backdrop areas for my crystal mixture that you're going to see in a few minutes. Now I'm going to take some WYNN Modern Art glitter that is mixed with clear glue, and I'm going to hand paint very carefully sections of beautiful crystal looking green areas. The one thing that I did not like when this painting dried is there was a deep turquoise color that just dried really, really dark. So those areas I was going to cover up because it was just going to look like another black section, and I did not want a bunch of black areas. So that's why I'm covering up some of these areas. So now I'm just adding in a few sections. The fun thing about pieces like this, where there's different areas that you work on and create, is you can alter, okay? You can alter this whole entire painting if you wanted to. There were many things in this painting that I had done that in the end you don't see because I didn't like that one white line that I drew up to the top of the canvas. I ended up covering that with a little bit of blue paint. I just wasn't feeling it. That this one right here, there's just a lot of things that you can do to alter these things, and that's why I like working on them. So this is a product called Mica Flake Paste, and it is scrumptious. It has the most beautiful texture when it dries. It's a paste that has little gold mica flakes mixed into it. So I'm putting that down in some areas, but I do not want a lot of gold in this painting. So once it dries, you're going to see me come back in with some of that blackest black paint and go over the sections. So there it is dry. And yeah, I'm just blacking that all out. I wanted some nice, gritty, rough looking areas in this painting. Now, I told you there was one thing I did here that I wish I didn't do. And that was I wish I had built these areas with the mica flake paste up a little higher, and I wish when I did the resin that I didn't go over them with it because it's just too shiny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in, once this cures for a good couple of weeks. I'm going to add some more of that mica flake paste, let it dry, and then go over it with the black and have just those areas be matte because I think it will look better, and you will see that soon. So I just took some of my favorite gold in the world, that is liquid gold by MTN, and I did a little speckling along the top and the bottom of the painting. Then it was time for my crystal mixture. This mixture is so beautiful. It's a combination of things like large flake glitter glass, sand, diamond dust, little tiny sparkly vase fillers that I get from Michael's, and a little bit of resin. That's all it is. You can add in some glitter for extra sparkle, but I like to do that at the end. So this is a 6-ounce cup, I believe, and I mixed up 1 ounce of resin and dumped it in there and just kind of made a slush out of it, okay? I like to do it this way because I am able to contain my crystals. You could put just resin over the entire surface and try to sprinkle them in there, but with the resin moving, they tend to float out into the painting. So doing it this way will ensure that your crystals stay where you want them. So I went and put them down on top of those gold areas that I created. And then I waited about 2 hours before I came back in with the resin that I was going to use on the painting. But let me show you a little trick. Take your leftover crystals, put them down on a surface that is non-stick. Like my table is covered with this type of paper that has a waxy film on it, so the resin will peel right up. You can use parchment paper, wax paper, plastic, anything that is shimmery that the resin won't stick to. Put them down on the surface there, create little crystal forms, and then at the end, when they're cured, you can peel them up and now you have crystal nuggets for future artworks. So I'll show you those in just a minute. So now here's my KS resin. I used KS resin for the crystals. I'm using it now for the top coat, and I'm just pouring it on the entire surface and rubbing it all over with my hand. Be sure to avoid those crystal areas if you use glitter glass because they can be very sharp. Just spread it out and give it a good torching. Once you go ahead and you torch your entire piece, it's time for the finishing touch. This is my favorite part, adding my WYNN Modern Art opal glitter right to the top of the crystal formations, and then we put it all to bed. We're going to wait 24 hours, and now let me show you the final results. How pretty is this? Again, the black areas are pretty, but I wish I left them matte. I think the contrast would have looked nice, but again, I love it no matter what. I love the speckling in the deep turquoise area. And look, here's our crystal clusters that we made with the leftover resin mixture that we had. You can use those in artwork. You can glue them down, resin them down, and they will make a beautiful geode. Or I should say a nice center for a geode. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it has inspired you to think outside of the box when it comes to acrylic pouring. As you see, the art doesn't have to stop after you pour the paint out. You can go much, much further with it. If you're interested in purchasing this piece, it's an 18 by 24 wood panel, as you saw, and it is available for purchase. You can email me artbytammy@yahoo.com if you want more information. Look at the sparkle of those WYNN Modern Art glitters. They are just bananas. They are the best glitter on the market as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I just absolutely love them. And I love the way the gold leaf is peeking through the crystal areas and giving it that soft hue. As always, all of the items that I use, well, most of them, are listed in the description, and some of them you can purchase with discount codes of mine. So be sure to check out the description. Please, if you have not subscribed, consider subscribing. That helps my videos get noticed when people subscribe. Leave comments and click that like button. And of course, that helps me to continue to create and teach. In the description, you will also find ways to follow me and join my Facebook group, United We Pour Fluid Art Group. I love you all. Thank you so very much for joining me. And until next Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, happy pouring.